Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Scottsdale Housing Agency Governing Board. Could we start with a roll call, please?
Chair Lurie.
Here.
Vice Chair Cooley.
Still here?
Commissioner Jameson.
Still here.
Commissioner Jung.
Here.
Commissioner Scheer.
Here.
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Rowe.
Here.
Chair Lurie, you have a quorum.
Okay, this is again a time reserved for public comment regarding non-agendized items, and public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Do we have any comment cards?
Chair Lurie, we do not.
All right. Moving forward, while we don't have the minutes from our November 13th meeting in our packets, I trust that an adequate number of you have read them. They were linked to the document. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Seconded.
And a roll call.
Chair Lurie.
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley.
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jung.
Yes.
Commissioner Scheer.
Yes.
Commissioner Hill.
Yes.
Commissioner Rowe.
Yes.
Okay. You all do have the draft of the 2025 annual report. I'm going to make a comment that there is going to be an annual report for the commission, but this is the annual report for the Housing Agency Governing Board. And while the agenda states that it's information and discussion, we do need a consent to approve the agenda, or excuse me, approve the annual report. So with that said, any comments regarding the 2025 annual report?
Mr. Chair, I like the report. I think it's succinct and hits on some key things. But it seemed to me that you all received very high marks from your audit or the review, and unless I'm missing it, I don't see that that's in here to kind of brag on yourself a little bit, because that was a big deal.
So with that said, the additional comments / recommendations, I was sent a draft copy of this that I added comments in there, and mentioning the professionalism, dedication, commitment of the staff. Do you feel that's adequate?
If staff feels it's adequate, I can live with that. I just thought it was quite an impressive outcome from your evaluation.
Chair Lurie, members of the commission, I actually concur, and I can't believe I left that out either, so I will be happy to add that in. Would you like me to present the annual report in summary prior to your voting?
Please. Yes, please.
Good evening. Good evening, Chair Lurie, members of the commission. Hopefully you can hear me okay, because the mic is not currently working over here. But I just wanted to go over the annual report very briefly with you throughout the year. There we go. We had 8 public meetings. We received 1 public comment during that time regarding the tenant-based rental assistance program. And the highlights are listed with regards to what occurred at each of our meetings. Some anticipated key issues, and I should note, I mean, we did bring before the fiscal year CMAP results listed on September 25th, 2025. I will make an amendment to that draft notice and put that we ranked high as a high performer with regards to that, with a score of 104. And we did look up today, we haven't been at 104 since 2012, I believe is what?
2018.
2018 was the last time we had a score that high. So that is an impressive score and definitely worth noting. Some key takeaway for issues for next year, which I think are important as we move forward in this next calendar year, is we have a continued need for affordable housing units here in the city of Scottsdale, and then we are planning to mitigate some potential fiscal restraints with the housing choice voucher program capacity. Some significant work products that we anticipate during this year are the ones that you see on an annual basis: our public housing annual agency plan, our administrative plan updates, and also our Section 8 management assessment report, also known as CMAP. Some upcoming opportunities or challenges that we anticipate over the course of the next calendar year are continuing cost-saving measures to stay within our projected 2026 funding and maintain housing for families throughout the Housing Choice Voucher Program. That concludes my presentation regarding next calendar year.
Yes, Commissioner Jung?
Hi, Mary. Two things to consider also adding. I think the housing staff was the first in Maricopa County to repurpose some of the housing vouchers for seniors, I believe it was.
Move on strategies.
Okay.
That was for
Yes, move on.
permanent supportive housing, transition over to HCV, and that is a fair accomplishment. You all are remembering our accomplishments. Good, thank you.
And the second one, I would also, I don't know if it's appropriate here or with our human services staff, but managing the closure, and I think it was in this fiscal year, of our hotel that was available for short-term housing.
Chair Lurie, members of the commission, that would fall under the Human Services Advisory Commission, Bridge Housing.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions or comments about the report? Hearing none, could I get a motion to approve the 2025 annual report with the suggestion that it be amended to include information about the CMAP score and the move-on strategies?
So moved. Second.
In a roll call?
Chair Lurie,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley,
Yes.
Commissioner Jamison,
Yes.
Commissioner Jung,
Yes.
Commissioner Shear,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill. Yes. Commissioner Rowe.
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us to the point in the agenda where commissioners can identify topics they want to raise for future governing board meetings.
Mr. Chair, this is an ongoing item, and I just want staff to keep us posted as it relates to any federal funding reductions impacting, potential reductions that may impact the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Thank you.
Good point. Would that also include CDBG funding?
I think that would fall more under Human Services Commission responsibility. It's the same team, but sort of a different category.
All right. With that, could we get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move it.
Second.
And a roll call?
Chair Lurie,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley,
Yes.
Commissioner Jamison,
Yes.
Commissioner Jung,
Yes.
Commissioner Shear,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill. Yes. Commissioner Rowe.
Yes.
We are adjourned for 6 minutes, I believe. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Human Services Advisory Commission on January 8th. Could we start with a roll call, please?
Chair Lurie,
Here.
Vice Chair Cooley,
Here.
Commissioner Jameson,
Here.
Commissioner Jung,
Here.
Commissioner Shear,
Here.
Commissioner Hill. Here. Commissioner Rowe.
Here.
Chair Lurie, you have a quorum.
Okay. Moving forward, this is a time reserved for public comment. Public comment is limited to non-agendized items, and public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Do we have any comment cards?
Chair Lurie, we do not.
All right. We do not have the minutes from the December 11th meeting attached to our packets, but I trust that everybody had a chance to read them. Could I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So move it.
Second.
And a roll call.
Chair Lurie,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley,
Yes.
Commissioner Jung,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Shear,
Yes.
Commissioner Rowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson.
Yes.
All right. First item on our agenda, on our regular agenda, is Deanna Owens, Human Services Manager, and Brandon Chapman, the Volunteer Coordinator, are going to give us an overview on volunteer opportunities and better impact.
Chair Lurie, and members of the commission, my name is Deanna Owens. I am the Human Services Manager at the Paiute Neighborhood Center, and I'll be presenting a highlight of our volunteer opportunities at the Human Services Department. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. I first want to start off with the benefits to our volunteer program, and not your typical benefits where the city benefits. I wanted to highlight the benefits that the volunteers receive by participating in our program. The first one, they receive a sense of purpose. It's meaningful in their lives. They receive social interaction and network opportunities. It's very, very good for their mental health. People experiencing loneliness, depression, social isolation, those sorts of things. They have an opportunity to physically get out of the home and participate in activities. Their personal growth and skill development is important. Some of our volunteers have opportunities to learn computer skills or other things that are offered by city staff. There is a community impact. They have an opportunity to interact with their neighbors, interact with city staff, and there's community connection. So our volunteers are important. Next slide. First of our centers, our Family Resource Center, they service the youngest individuals in our community. The volunteers in these particular pictures are actually interacting with families and interacting with children. The volunteers in the Family Resource Center, they do lots of hands-on interactions and prepping the programs. And I really love the picture that's on the left where we have a volunteer who is a senior with a very young child. So that's the kind of interaction in our Family Resource Center that they have, and actually with the parents as well. So the pictures say a lot. The Family Resource Center volunteers also participate in a number of events and activities outside the Resource Center. Next slide. Our Youth and Family Services, they provide through the Mayor's Youth Council, Scottsdale High School youth have an opportunity to participate in the Youth Council. They can tour facilities and meet a lot of the city staff and government officials. And in the picture that you see, these youth have done some volunteer work. And I think it's beautiful when we see our youth volunteering, giving back to the community, and understanding it's more than just about you. There's something that you can give to others in your neighborhood. Youth and Family Services also has a Scottsdale Youth Substance Abuse Coalition, also with youth. So these are youth who are advocating and supporting the prevention and education of substance use among the youth. And the picture in the bottom right-hand corner, that's an example of the youth actually being a team and working to really just, and this was a holiday picture where they were putting together packages for families at that time. But it's just an excellent representation of youth in action. Next slide. Our career services area has career coaches, is what we call the volunteers here. And they do the typical kind of career services as far as interviewing, resumes, introducing job skills to individuals. But the picture on the right I want to highlight, it's not your typical career services coach. This is an example of an individual needing clothes. If you have a job interview, and let's say you have this really, really important job that you are excited about, but you don't have the proper clothes to wear on an interview. So our career services provides clothing, or let's say that particular individual does not have a way to get to their interview. We'll provide bus tickets or a gas card so that they can get to the interview. So there's more services that our career services can provide than just the interaction as far as resume development. Next slide, please. Our Paiute Neighborhood Center. The volunteers at our Paiute Neighborhood Center, last year we celebrated our 30th anniversary at Paiute Center, and most of the volunteers participate in our annual festival. And these are group volunteers, not just an individual coming. There are some individuals, but there's a lot of group volunteers that come out to support this particular event. And here you can see some of them, Element Song and National Charity League pictured here. Next slide, please. And this is just highlighting all of the various community partners who volunteer to support this event and activity. And I just kind of want to name them just in case you can't see where they're coming from. We have Partners for Paiute, Scottsdale Unified School District, there's Honor Health, there is Blue Zones, Adelante, Valley Metro, Alzheimer's Association, NOAA, an organization called Power Me, and they're really into health initiatives. And we also have the Arizona Attorney General's Office. So these are just a few of the community partners that really volunteer their time to provide services and resources to the community. Next slide. Our Granite Reef Senior Center, their volunteers provide customer service. They assist twice a month with the brown bag program as far as the distribution and preparing the brown bags. There's also a lunch program where volunteers support. And the senior centers have community events all year round. So our volunteers have an opportunity to participate in special events all year round. Next slide. Our Via Linda Senior Center, similar to our Granite Reef Senior Center, providing customer service, group activities, and events. And one very unique thing that the Via Linda Senior Center needs right now is a volunteer caseworker. So the demand is high and our caseworkers need some additional support. So right now they are in need of a volunteer caseworker. Next slide. Vista del Camino. Vista del Camino, they support the Day Relief Center at that site. And there is a need at Vista del Camino for volunteers in the Day Relief Center and also in the recreation program. There's a new initiative to offer after-school support for children who need assistance with homework. So we need volunteers for that initiative. Next slide. Our food bank. We have lots of food insecurity in our community. And the food bank volunteers, there's a need at every center where we're giving out food. However, the food bank, they're sorting, doing lots of manual work to prepare the food and sort it out. And one picture I really, really want to highlight are the two on the right-hand side. In the middle, we have a volunteer who is one of our senior volunteers. And if you look on the right-hand side, we have a group of teen volunteers. So our volunteers are not only seniors. I do want to highlight we do have a variety of groups that come in to support the needs at the food bank. And it's just very special when we see our seniors and also our youth out there volunteering and working together. Next slide. Last of the Human Services Department, we try to recognize the contributions that our volunteers make by hosting an annual volunteer recognition event. We want to make sure that our volunteers know that we value their time and value the special things that they bring to our programming. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm going to hand it over to Brandon Chapman, and he is also going to speak to our volunteer programming. And then after that, we'll ask if there are any questions.
Thank you, Deanna. Thank you to the Commission for inviting me to speak today. So my name is Brandon Chapman. I'm the Volunteer Program Coordinator for the City of Scottsdale. You can think of my position essentially as a bit like HR for our volunteers. So I'm primarily over policy and procedure and a resource and support for the staff who are more the boots on the ground, who are working with the volunteers at each of the locations that we utilize volunteers at across the city. If you're curious, we actually have a lot more volunteers in the city than we do paid staff. We have about 4,700 volunteers. That includes, it's not all just folks working behind the scenes, but it also includes folks who are out in the preserve and doing various things for us. So it's a big part of what we do at the city, and human services is one of the areas where we do often really utilize volunteers maybe more than some of the other areas in the city. It kind of makes sense. It's where we really touching the community a lot. So to Deanna's point, it's not just, the volunteering isn't just that the city is taking advantage of free labor, but it is also a way for the community to participate with itself, for the community to actually, for a person to participate in their own community, I should say. So kind of the big question is if people are watching this and seeing all the kind of fun things our volunteers are doing and saying, this is great, how do I get involved? Well, what I usually tell folks is if you want to get an idea, not just of some of the things we do in human services, but the other programs we have, and we do have volunteers with the fire department. We have volunteers who are Old Town ambassadors who are out talking with tourists and visitors to the city. We have volunteers with the police department, the library, et cetera. So they're spread across all of our different departments of the city. So if you're curious about some of the things, not just our human services that people do, I usually direct people to say, well, let's start with just getting a broad idea of what our volunteers do. We do have a volunteer opportunities page on the city's website at scottsdaleaz.gov/volunteer. You get a little bit of a sense of the different things we have on there. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's more our more popular areas. You see a little blurb about each one, so you can kind of get a sense of, oh, what do we do at this place? For some of them, we have a nice little embedded video. This is our volunteer, Lynn, who was at the food bank, so you get a little bit of sense of what the volunteers do. You'll notice that for everyone, there's also a contact information listed. Kind of question, if you see something you like, how do I get involved? You're welcome to reach right out to the contact person there. You can also work through me. So I'm a resource, like I say, to the community too. I'm kind of a public touch point. If a person isn't necessarily aware of where they want to start or they're coming to us completely fresh, like, do you even take on volunteers? I'm kind of a good starting point. What I like to tell people is our process essentially starts with a conversation. We're going to kind of talk a little bit about, well, what are your interests? What kind of draws you here? I tell kind of our new staff that are new to working with volunteers, just because somebody who says, I want to volunteer, it doesn't mean we're like, great, you're here. And then we kind of find out, oh, it's not a good fit. We do, as we do with hiring, we want to see if it's a good fit for a person. Different positions, some of the ones we saw, like in particular the food bank, have different demands. The food bank in particular is a kind of a lively environment. There's some lifting and stooping. So that's why I say it starts with a conversation. We want to see if it's going to be a good fit, not just for your availability, but also for what you're looking for, and even a little bit of a culture fit too, because every workplace has a little bit of a personality culture. So do you kind of fit in? So we usually start with a conversation. It could be a conversation with me, and I'll give a person kind of a view from 30,000 feet, talk a little bit about, well, what do you think kind of interests you? And I can also give them some bigger picture things of what's going on for a moment in the city. Like I typically know, oh, we're actually not looking for people right now for this particular department or this job, but we are looking for people over here. For example, say like right now, the Granite Reef Senior Center could use some help with their lunch program. So I can help people with that, but ultimately I'm not the expert on, hey, do we need somebody on a Tuesday from 2 to 3? So I'm always eventually gonna turn a person over to, as I mentioned, the kind of person who's boots on the ground. So somebody who's the volunteer coordinator for that location. Now, there's almost nobody in the city whose job is just to be a volunteer coordinator, except for maybe me. So those folks are doing a whole lot of stuff, and they're overseeing the volunteers. So, so we hand them over. I might take my hat off to them. That's why I say I'm here to be a support for them if I can and help them with all the kind of preliminaries to sort of get them there, folks. But it starts with a conversation. We'll talk, and if it is, what we'll typically do too is, it kind of sounds good, we'll have you invite you down. You'll meet with our staff, get a chance to see firsthand what it looks like, walk around, say, the food bank or the Granite Reef Senior Center, or get a chance to come in on a Friday morning at the Family Resource Center when the families are coming in and you kind of see the kids. So you get a sense of what it's like, and we get a little bit of sense of you too. And then if it's a good fit, what we're gonna do, we're gonna always collect a volunteer application from you. Sometimes that's the starting point. People will send in an application and say, hey, I'm interested in this, where do I go from here? Sometimes they're just reaching out, like we saw the contact info, they might just reach out to someone and say, tell me a little bit more, and then eventually we're gonna collect a volunteer application. I bring this up because right now, we mentioned on the agenda something called Better Impact. We're actually moving to a new enterprise software system for overseeing our volunteers. It's called Better Impact. It's a way to kind of link everyone across the city. Previously, over years and years, we've had all the different areas kind of doing what makes the most sense for them. Better Impact's a way for us to get everybody into one unified database. We have basically we have sub-accounts for all these different areas. Human Services has its own account, so Human Services volunteers are ultimately going to be all kind of lumped together. They're not sharing a space with fire department people or library folks. It's just Human Services. So we have a new application process that's part of that. It allows us to power an online application, and we're looking at it here. So the nice thing about this is, in the old days, it was a PDF. It's a piece of paper you're going to fill out, and then it involved, once you come on board, some administrative processes of let me add you to a database or a spreadsheet or this or that. The nice thing about the new application, it dumps you right into our system. It creates a profile for you. It saves time for staff because, as I mentioned, staff's not always just get the luxury of working with volunteers. They're getting pulled in a whole lot of different areas, and they sometimes have a lot of volunteers. So our new system, you fill out an application online. It kind of puts you in the system, but the process is the same. That's gonna, if we catch you that way first, or if we talk with you first, one way or the other, we'll have a conversation and find a fit. If it's a good fit, we get you into our system. The next step is always gonna be our standard volunteer background screening, but that too is a quick online process. So we do that for everyone, and then you're ready to come on board. And the nice thing about having this new system is once you're on board, you actually have your own volunteer account. When you fill out the application, you're creating a username and a password. It puts you in the system. You have your own portal where you can log into once you're on board with this. You can record your hours that way. You'll keep a running, you can kind of see my lifetime total there. It's a meager 19 hours. That's mostly just me playing around with the system, not actually volunteering. But you have your own area where not only do you record the hours, and again, administratively, it's great for staff because we now don't have to maintain all these different locations, different spreadsheets. We can pull reports from all these different locations from one area, not just within all of our locations within Human Services, which we can do, but we can step out and we can do it across the city from all the different accounts that we have. So we can have Parks and Rec and Human Services. We can compare, we can contrast, we can look at all those numbers. So that's kind of nice. And occasionally this also allows us to do some things. We had a recent change to one of our administrative regulations where now we've always asked our volunteers to adhere to certain administrative regulations the same as we do with staff. We updated one recently, and so the idea came out, well, we need to get everybody trained on this. How do we do it? So we have a new system now. The Better Impact system lets us do that online. So they can basically take a training, kind of the way our staff does, it's sort of a computer-based training when it's convenient for them. We can put an expiration date on it. So it's really been a nice move, and we're getting there. So we don't quite have everybody. We're in a weird space now. We're kind of half a foot in one world, half a foot in the other. But that's pretty much the simple process. Let's have a conversation, find out what you like, get you to fill out an application. We don't have a ton of paperwork for you, and then we'll do a background screening, then we get you on board, we get you an ID badge, and you can start to work and dig in. And as I mentioned, human services is one of the thriving areas where we really use volunteers. They're a big part of what we do, and you know, in some of the areas like the food bank, we'd kind of be bereft without them. So thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Brandon. And Deanna, looking left, looking right. Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. I believe volunteers really are the glue that holds everything together, so I thank you very much for what you do. I do have one quick question. So I am a member of a lot of different organizations, and they're looking for one-time experiences. How would that work if you'd say, my group, my Lions Club, my whatever, would like to come down and volunteer at whatever particular location? How would that work?
We do work with groups a lot. I'm probably the best starting point for that. So again, my contact information is on our volunteer opportunities page. So folks can find me when you scroll all the way down at the bottom of this page. You can find my contact information. For groups, corporate groups, more often than not, we have a couple places that not everything's a good fit, and part of it is just simply size. We don't have the space to accommodate a big group to come in, but where we typically will send groups to, we like to use them for the food bank, and we like to use them for Operation Fix It. Now, Operation Fix It's a little unique in that it's more physical and you're outdoors. We don't really do anything during the summertime with Operation Fix It, but for some of the groups, a lot of the faith-based groups like to work with Operation Fix It, where if folks aren't familiar with that program, those are folks who qualify, they're income eligible homeowners here in Scottsdale, and we go out and they're usually facing code violations. So staff and typically a team of volunteers will go out, kind of tackle what they're facing there. Usually it's minor exterior maintenance, landscaping. Sometimes we're actually replacing grass, which is maybe not so much grass, but weeds, with rock and things like that. So those are kind of the two areas where I typically steer folks towards. The food bank is one where we're regularly having groups come in. They do it, in fact, if I'm getting the time right, I want to say the first and third Monday of every month, we're working with groups that are coming into the food bank. And usually we work with our partner is Scottsdale Community Partners is usually the one who'll schedule that for us. So I'll usually talk with them a little bit, see if that's a good fit for their group. Again, we're a little constrained by the size. We don't have opportunities that are great for like huge groups, but somewhere between 20 or a little smaller are ideal. And so they'll get that all scheduled and planned out, and they're actually scheduling way in advance because lots of organizations want to come and help with us, which we love. For some of like the more smaller groups, sometimes, again, I'm a good place to start with because I kind of know, I have like a bug in my ear about like somebody will say, oh, by the way, we got this thing coming up. So for instance, we're not super far away from an event we do in the spring called Bonanza. That's more sort of an Easter time event. There's a lot of preparation that goes into something like Bonanza, kind of behind the scenes. We do something like an Easter egg hunt where they're not actual eggs, but plastic eggs stuffed with goodies. There's thousands of eggs that need to get stuffed with goodies, so we have had groups come in and go, like a week in advance and just stuff plastic Easter eggs that we put out there on the day of the event. So there's always room for something kind of creative like that if it fits what they want to do, and if there's somewhere in the city that really needs a helping hand with that. So that's why I say I'll direct folks, reach out to me, and then I'll kind of ask around. Either I'll have something in my head like, oh, I wish we'd have somebody to help us with this, or if not, I'll just put the word out. And I'll reach out to all of our different coordinators and say, hey, what's going on? Do you need something with this? Our special events that we do at the city are also an area where we always kind of like some help with. And so I actually will keep a list of either individuals or groups who are maybe not so much interested in being like ongoing, regularly recurring volunteers, but one-time volunteers, either just a one-time individual or again a group that wants to send people to us, and I can reach out to them when we have special events. Paiute Neighborhood Center will work a lot with certain groups that have traditionally been with them. They've kind of built up relationships like National Charity League, which is typically mothers and their teen daughters, which volunteer in pairs. So the National Charity League is often working with us at our different locations. They'll be helping at the Paiute Spring Festival, which is coming up in March, if I'm getting my dates right. I think it's towards the end of March. So there's like lots of kind of little areas, but primarily food bank, and if they like that kind of outdoorsy thing, Operation Fix It, or where I sort of drive folks to the most, but we're open to kind of, you know, sort of playing jazz and creating stuff too if there's a need out there.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Brandon, Deanna, thanks so much. Really good report. My only question is, you mentioned you have about 4,700 volunteers in your database. Do you roll up the total hours that everybody throws into their efforts, and what does that look like on an annual basis?
120-some thousand hours for the last fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I'm remembering it right. I have it always hanging behind my desk, so I should know it. I think it's 121,000. Then that's not actually even counting folks like yourself. There's about 161 other commissioners, board members, task force members that, I mean, you guys serve voluntarily too. So a lot of times, kind of depending on how we're pushing those numbers out to the community, we'll include the 160 some of you folks too. We usually just, the only reason we separate it is just because the onboarding process is a little bit different between becoming a commissioner and becoming kind of our standard volunteers. But, you know, we like to count you guys too, and that pushes it up. If you put a dollar value on the volunteering, and there's an organization, a national organization, independent sector, which determines the value of volunteer time, both for a national average and a state value. For us, it's around $34, I think it is for Arizona. It's about, for the city of Scottsdale, it's about $4 million annually for the volunteers that are what they're contributing to the city for their efforts.
Right, and without the volunteers, that could naturally lead to possibly staff time, and that's a huge savings for the city taxpayers.
Yeah, off the top of my head, again, I wish I had 46, you could do the math at home, 46 full-time employees,
Right.
Something along that, or I may be getting that wrong, but same thing, we calculate that number too. When we do our annual report to the community, we'll put those numbers out there. So yeah, it's a big chunk of folks. They get a lot done for us. As I mentioned, staff get pulled in a lot of directions. It's really nice to know that we have this kind of dedicated workforce.
It's very impressive, thank you.
Mr. Cooley.
Thank you, Chair Lurie. Not sure who can answer this better, so I'll just throw it out to both of you. Deanna and Brandon, thank you so much for being here today. FRC, the Family Resource Center, boy, it looks like it benefits both youth and seniors. It's lovely. I love that we're catching both bookends there. About how many, and you can just throw out a percentage, if you don't know, that's fine too, about how many of those volunteers are bilingual? Do we know? Ish.
The Family Resource Center, just again, it's kind of because of size and capacity, don't have a ton of volunteers. I think we have 3 or 4 volunteers, and we saw Marietta, who's one of them, who was the senior. Marietta volunteers at a couple locations with us. I've lost my train. What was your question, Ian? What was the?
How many might be bilingual?
Bilingual. One of our volunteers, I know one for sure, Veronica is, I think only one of the 3, if I'm remembering 3 or 4, but
25%, that's
yeah,
pretty good.
not too bad.
Yeah.
And then a couple of staff too, also.
Very good. Background checks, fingerprint clearance cards, any of that stuff come into play at the FRC, or?
Yeah, well, like as I mentioned, we'll do a background screening for everybody who comes on board at the city, and that's, you know, just a criminal screening. We work with the Vendor Shield screening, and that is a national database check for criminal records, terrorists / sex offender database with also social security verification. And then we also do they'll also do for us a check of the county criminal records too. If someone is going to be working unsupervised with vulnerable populations, which is pretty rare, we have very few folks in the city who are volunteering unsupervised with vulnerable populations. For those folks, we do also have them fingerprinted through our HR department, so that goes through DPS. And then Human Services has, because of its contracts with certain organizations, has some requirements that are a little bit different from some other parts of the city where we also require a fingerprint clearance card for those folks. And that's not my expertise. I would turn that over to our Human Services staff to talk a little bit more about that. But so there's another layer kind of involved depending on what their volunteer duties are and where they're volunteering.
Very good. I also enjoyed the variety in the demographics at the food bank, both senior and youth. And I wondered if you had any thoughts there as to why that is. Is there a commonality about food or hunger or something that attracts both ends of the spectrum?
It's very much these days in the news. Food insecurity is becoming very much a part of the national narrative. I think, not to be, I don't mean this to sound sort of cynical, part of it I think is just that it's an available opportunity. It does fit groups well, and there are typically folks coming to us from a group, but I think it's just, the biggest part is it's what's in people's consciousness when they think of what kind of volunteer jobs are there out there in general. Because it's always been sort of a volunteer-driven area, I think when people think about volunteering, they often think about services like food banks. So
Food,
it's just
shelter,
kind of,
clothing. Right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you both.
Yeah, Deanna and Brandon, thank you very much for being here. I had one follow-up question. The CAP office at Vista del Camino, I know has quite a backlog of work to do. Is there any opportunity for volunteers in that space?
Chair Lurie, if I may chime in on this one, members of the commission, we actually do not have a backlog at the at Vista del Camino anymore. The applications are being processed within 7 days and assigned of receipt.
Wow, terrific. Thank you. Okay. Again, Brandon, Deanna, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for the great work you do.
thank you.
Chad, I believe you're up. And this is the moment that all of the commissioners have been waiting for. It's our annual funding cycle. I know we're all very excited to dive in and start reading proposals and ranking them. I will say this is, I think, my 5th year doing this process, and due to the great work that Chad and Melissa have done, it has evolved. It's become much more streamlined and much more efficient. So really, I thank you all for the work that you do. With that, Chad?
Chair Lurie, members of the commission, thank you. I'll also be joined today by Melissa McNeil, a community grant specialist in the Housing Community Assistance Office. There we go. Just a quick calendar events, what we're going to go through here today. First is the calendar of events, then some administrative notices, our applications, the changes we've made, the scoring, some of the changes we made there, our human services staff evaluation, some of the older evaluation scoring tools, and we do have some new tools as well. We'll cover all the funding categories, and we will have a new delivery system to get all these documents to you. And then, of course, the neighborly software where you will be doing your final scoring. Just quick key dates during the process. Our proposals were due on October 24th. If you note, originally that was October 17th. We did have a little bit of difficulty with our software, with some of the agencies submitting software, particularly with the CDBG applications, based on the fact that they could submit applications with partner agencies. There were some drop-down menus that weren't working correctly. I'll go over that a little bit more when we get to the human service evaluations. With that being said, we also had to push back our human service evaluations another week. So that kind of put a crunch on us getting all this ready for you guys for January 8th, but I think we got it all set. Next up is January 30th. As you guys review your proposals, there are 37 of them. So we can add an extra hour of volunteer time for every one of you, times 10, on that sheet that we were talking about earlier. So with that, if you do have questions for the agencies, those be emailed directly to Melissa and myself. Our contact information is on this presentation, which you have. We'll also be sending an updated version of the presentation too. Scoring submissions will be due to in Neighborly by Thursday, February 19th. So that is the final deadline to submit your scoring into Neighborly. And then that will be followed up by a work study on February 26th, where you will see all the scores. And it's an informal funding recommendation where you can discuss and talk amongst yourselves about the process and the scores. And then we will move into our formal funding recommendations on March 12th. And that will move to City Council on March 28th for CDBG and home, and then on May 12th for our local funds, which are Scottsdale Cares General Funds and SRP MIC. Quickly, some administrative notices. These were all reviewed before. So each agency is limited to submitting one proposal per funding source. Each agency is limited to submitting one proposal per program or project. Judgment on that could get a little bit tricky, but Melissa will cover that as well. Funding caps are in place for all of our funding sources. Staff scoring is reflected on the sheet that was provided to you today, the hard copy. It's gigantic, it looks like a poster. We also have an Excel sheet which is filled with formulas where you can do all your scoring on that before you go into neighborly. I'll go over that in a bit. And then again, the questions will be due January 30th if you have any questions for the agencies. Proposals, if they mention they use city services, facilities, or service, they need to provide that they're required to submit a letter from staff stating that they do, or a memorandum of understanding. And this year we did incorporate 5 bonus points for agencies with proven collaboration with the city and human service centers, and that comes in the staff scoring. Applications, we did change the order up a little bit, so we did program-related information first, so you get to hear about the program first or read about the program first, and then kind of look at the logistics with the budget and everything else. We also made it mandatory to submit their IRS 990 forms and also submit a survey that they will be providing to their clients to be filled out, which will be used for future funding processes when we will have them provide those surveys for you guys to review for the following funding cycle. Again, we did add a new question to outline the agency's involvement to the Scottsdale community over the last year. So we're putting a real emphasis on involvement with Scottsdale and how they are collaborating with us and how we can better serve our clients and the clients they are serving, which should be Scottsdale residents. Scoring has been condensed this year. All the scoring sections are 10 points. So there's 7 sections that the commission will be scoring for a total of 70 points. Also going to provide a scoring rubric, which gives you 1 through 10, what you should expect, giving expectations for a 10, what you should look for, a 9, 8, 7, 6, anything 3 or 1. We'll just move on. A proposal max score is 105 out of, so that's 35 for staff and then 70 for the commissioners. So again, we revised our scoring tools. So the scoring evaluation tool, we took a little bit of the intel or data that you provided us last year, what you were looking for, and we added that to our scoring evaluation tool. And I'll go over that here a little more detail. And then we also have a new form called Program Shortfalls and Needs, which we asked all of our human service center managers what their needs were at the center. So that could be used not only for the public service proposals, but also for us as a staff for future public facility projects as well. So here is the scoring evaluation tool. This will be provided via secure mail. You guys should have received that already. But each question gives you the locations on where you should be looking to find the data to accumulate your scores for each particular section. So it's broken down what forms you should look at or what questions and where they're at in the actual application. Demonstrated capacity and historical data. We did add a new section to this as well. prior years, we had the proposed served and also the actual served. We've added the awarded amount and how much they actually expended through the contract. So you can see, you know, in some cases, if we're awarding 20,000, maybe they're only spending 10 or 15. So just give you a more view of how they're performing outside of our staff score. Again, there was an emphasis on proposals, working with the city, and also applicability to the funding priorities that we're asking for. And the 5 bonus points is kind of a big deal. So when you add 5 points to a proposal, that really puts them up a lot higher than the others. So we didn't give those out generously, so just keep that in mind. This is the scoring scale that I discussed earlier. So again, 1 through 10, with kind of some details to what to look for to when you are scoring, where you want to place them in the cycle. So it goes from excellent to unresponsive. And it's called the scoring rubric in the email. So every year we do a human services staff evaluation. So once all the proposals are submitted, staff gets together. First, we get with all human services center managers and we go over all the proposals and we score them for priority. And then we go through and we just discuss as a group questions about certain agencies, about the proposals. Are they actually doing the work in your centers? Just questions like that. So we come up with our questions, and then internally as a staff, Melissa and I and Mary go through the proposals and take a look at their completeness. Did they submit everything? Did they complete all the questions? Does their budget look right? Are the numbers adding up? And we take all those questions and we put them in an email and we send them to the agencies. And then they had about 2 weeks to come back with the responses. So we put all the responses and all the requested documentation in the proposal packets that we'll go over. So you can kind of see and review what their answers were to our questions, and then kind of take a look at what they changed or what they didn't change in their proposals based off of our questions. Another note is if an agency did not respond to the human service evaluation within the time frame provided, the deadline was December 19th, they will be deducted, or they were deducted 10 points from their total score. So this year, our funding priorities are the same as last year. First priority is emergency housing assistance. Then we had crisis case management, homeless supportive services and shelters, vulnerable population, seniors and disabled, and then finally positive youth development, which is only for Scottsdale Cares. I'm happy to say that this year we do have our volunteers back from the Scottsdale Youth Council. I believe we have a couple of them here tonight. Yes, we do. One of them looks very familiar. Christy, would you like to introduce them?
Good evening. Chair Lurie, Human Services Commissioners, I'd like to introduce you to 2 of my SMIC members, but I do have 2 more, which they are super excited. But we have Erica and Eric here today. We remember Eric from last year, very competent and capable of looking over the applications and certainly advocating on those that he felt very passionate about. I'll let them say hello and introduce themselves. Just tell them how long you've been on the council.
Hi, I'm Erica Johnson, and I'm a junior at Chaparral High School, and this is my first year on the Youth Council.
Hello again, I'm Eric Wong. I am a junior at Desert Mountain High School. This is my second year on the council.
Welcome to both of you. We're really pleased to have you participating in this process and look forward to getting your feedback and hearing from you. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Erica and Eric. Moving forward, we're going to go into the funding categories, how many proposals we received and where we're at with what's available and what was requested. And then once we get through that, we're going to kind of go over the technical details of how the documents are being delivered and kind of navigation of the proposals and neighborly. So I will give it over to Melissa McNeil.
Good evening. I have the fun part. So this evening I'm going to speak to you about the different funding sources and then break it down by the budget. So for CDBG projects, they're broken down into 3 categories. Oh, I didn't change the slide. I'm so sorry. We have public services, non-public services, for housing rehabilitation, and non-public services, public facilities. I should also mention here that HUD has not awarded or allocated the CDBG and home funds to date, and the numbers we are using are approximate. The public services priorities are homelessness, supportive services, and shelters. The funding cap for a single agency is $40,000. With a lead agency and up to 2 partner agencies, the maximum is $80,000 for their request. The anticipated available funding amount is approximately $148,000 for this fiscal year. There's 6 proposals that have been received, and that is totaling $343,000. So we have quite a bit of a deficit, and that is typical during the funding process. So that's where it becomes important with the scoring and the priorities that are met. In the category of CDBG non-public services, for the housing, we received 1 housing proposal, and that was for the maximum of $60,000. Moving on to Scottsdale Cares. The numbers for Scottsdale Cares and general funds are a little bit different from what was provided on the agenda due to the removal of 2 applications that didn't adhere to the NOFA. So if you notice a number that is off in what was provided to you prior to this, that is the reasoning. The Scottsdale Cares funding priorities are as follows: emergency housing assistance, crisis case management, vulnerable populations, seniors and disabled, and then the positive development of youth. The anticipated funding availability for Scottsdale Cares is $180,000 with the funding cap of $20,000. And then for this category, our office received 18 Scottsdale Cares applications totaling $306,000. Moving on to general funds, these priorities are emergency housing assistance, crisis case management, vulnerable populations. Our office received, and it's similar to Scottsdale Cares, the anticipated funding availability for this category is $34,500 with a funding cap of $20,000 per application, and our office received 10 applications for general funds totaling $195,000. For the SRP MIC funding availability, this is focused on home-delivered meals and congregate meals, the 2 programs combined. The anticipated availability of funding for this is $130,000. We received 1 proposal of $130,000, so there's no deficit in this category. So as a breakdown, the funding breakdown for fiscal year 26-27 is as follows. CDBG public service, funding availability at $148,000. The priorities for homelessness, supportive services, and shelters with the funding cap at $40,000 for a single agency and $80,000 for a partnering agency. CDBG housing, $60,000 for the funding availability for housing activities, and that cap is $60,000. Scottsdale Cares, $180,000 with the priorities of emergency housing assistance, crisis case management, vulnerable populations, and positive development of youth at $20,000 per proposal. SRP MIC, $130,000 for home-delivered meals and congregate meals, and it's broken down for $100,000 for home-delivered meals and then $30,000 for congregate meals. For general funds, the funding availability is $34,500, with the priority of emergency housing assistance, crisis case management, vulnerable populations, and the funding cap at $20,000. Just for your maybe easier to score, I would keep this handy, this slide handy, so that when you're referring back to the applications that you can have that accessible. I'm going to give Chad back the mic so that he can cover the secure mail and neighborly.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay. So, as stated earlier, we are going to be delivering all the documents, the proposals, along with our evaluation and scoring tools via secure mail. I did send this email today, right around, I think, 12 o'clock. So if you haven't received one, let me know and I'll get it back to you. Just so you know, with the secure mail, what you're going to do is there's that little download files button there at the bottom. You can just download them right from there. If you guys have any issues or anything, just call me and I can try and email them individually. Some of the files are quite large, so we might still have to go through secure mail, but we wanted to get you everything delivered in one email. Okay. Oh, quick note, that link does expire somewhere, I think it's early February, so just make sure you get in there and at least download the items so you know. Outside of the secure mail, we use Neighborly. It's a software where we collect all of our proposals. We administer all of our grants inside of Neighborly, and we also allow for commissioners to do the scoring inside of Neighborly. I did send another email today with the link to Neighborly. You probably also received an email showing all the applications that you've been put on to be reviewers. So everyone should have 37 outside of Commissioner Laurie, which will have 9 less. I just want to go into Neighborly and kind of show you guys what it looks like for those who haven't seen it yet, and just let you look around real quick. Forgive me, the mouse is... Gene, can you hit the Neighborly tab on the top there? It's the third from the right. Yeah. Oh, almost there. No, okay. You just hit sign in, please. So if you don't have an account yet, Commissioner Rowe and Commissioner Hill, it will just direct you to create a new account. You just put in your email, just like anything else. And then once you're signed in, you're going to come to this screen, and everyone will have, I only have 3 here, but you should have all the ones that you're assigned to. And then from there, you'll click on one. Gene, could you click on that top one, CDBG Family Promise, please? So here's the screen that you'll get. In this area, you could review the application itself under the application tab, and you can also review documents as well. The documents that are there are what they were required to submit. So in there is going to be their sample survey that's not inside in the proposal packets. In there is going to be their 990 forms, which is not inside the proposal packets. Also, their audits, their letters of incorporation, their org charts, board of directors. So all that information is in there. It's in Neighborly. You just have to go into documents and look. I can tell you the last 2 documents on every single one, if you scroll down, is going to be the survey and the 990. So you know, and then once you're ready to score, you just click, you hit scoring, complete scoring, you go in there and you just, you punch in your numbers for each section and hit submit. From last year, I know sometimes it does take a while to load, so just give yourself a lot of time to enter those scores. Next document I want to share with you is what you have in front of you. This is our scoring tool. So I envision that you would use this document to actually do your scoring and save it, and then go back and then enter your scores. So this, along with the scoring evaluation tool, would be the two things that you're utilizing as you go through to score your proposals. And then from there, you just would put them into Neighborly. There's formulas in here, so when you do put in your score, it will accumulate, or it will populate as you put in your scores to show the final scores. Those staff scores are our scores that we've already scored there for your review. They're also available on the historical data form too, showing how we came up with those scores. And then lastly, I want to do a quick navigation inside the proposals. So this is the Scottsdale Cares proposal. As you can see, or maybe not, it's 368 pages. So as you scroll through, we have the table of contents and basically telling you exactly what page everything's on. There are links to each particular proposal, so you can scroll back and forth. The first thing you're going to see is the human service evaluation. So anything that's included in the human service evaluation are questions and their replies or documents they submitted if they weren't uploaded in Neighborly, have like this kind of blue turquoise color to them. And then as you go through, this is a good point here. So as I was stating earlier, we had some issues with Neighborly. So you'll see this question a lot on 13A, which was the first budget section, revenues. And there was some difficulty showing where they should be putting their revenues. So we tried to clear all that up with this question and have them go back into Neighborly. So if you want to see their full completed proposal, you're going to go into Neighborly to look at it. The proposal that's in this packet was their original submittal. So just keep that in mind as well. And then after their human service evaluation is the demonstrated capacity and historical performance. So those are all the things that we use to come up with our score. And then following that is their actual original submittal proposal. And you can, 90% of what's is in this is also in the Neighborly application, outside of any adjustments that we asked them to make in there. We didn't want to put another full proposal in here and make this 700 pages. So let me get back. So outside of that, that is the conclusion of the presentation. And I know there are, no, we got one more page if I could get to it. There we go. So just a quick breakdown of the scoring. So again, everything is 10 points. And then we have a total of 70 for commissioners, and then 35 for our staff, and then we have the 105. One thing to note this year, any proposal that scores 70 or below will not make it into the review process. They'll be removed before we even get there. Here's our contact information. Again, when you're sending your questions on or before January 30th, please send it to myself and Melissa. Okay, questions?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. First of all, really great job consolidating all of the information you heard from us last spring after we went through this process. And I think you nailed it, and I really appreciate your focus on streamlining and providing all the information. You guys are doing a great job. I think this would be my 5th year through this, and it gets better every year. So thank you both. Really, really appreciate it. So just to confirm, the scoring is done in Neighborly,
Yes, sir.
and the proposals can be accessed either through your secure mail, download, or on Neighborly.
Chair Lori, Commissioner Chair, members of the commission, yes. So the proposals, it's kind of like a one-stop shop because it does have all the other documents, the evaluation and the historical data, and then it has the original proposal. The proposal after our comments and requested updates to the proposals, if they're not provided, most of them are provided in screenshots in the human service evaluation, but the complete full proposal is going to be in Neighborly.
Very good, thank you. And the historical data, does that include the previous year's funding for, like in a matrix form or a spreadsheet form that we, for example, recommended last year?
You mean like historical for all the funding sources?
Yes.
Like it doesn't, but I can definitely provide that.
It may, if my colleagues aren't interested, maybe it's not that significant, so. Okay, maybe it would be helpful if that's not too much additional work. Also, Chad, are we moving forward with the, against my better judgment, requirement that we award all or nothing in terms of the funding for the agencies based on their request?
For Scottsdale Cares and General Fund, yes, we are.
For Scottsdale Cares and General Fund, okay. Someday I'll bring that back for additional discussion. And my last is not, well, I guess it is a question. The general fund funding amount was $100,000 2 years ago. It was $80,000 this past year. And now we've reduced that by about 60%. Are those general fund dollars still floating around the Human Services Department in some capacity to be used as management sees fit, or did those dollars evaporate through the budget process? And if so, why?
Chair Lori, members of the commission, I can answer that question. Those funds do lie within Human Services and are floating with Human Services needs internally at this time. You will see an increase back not next year, but in the next year's funding cycle for fiscal year 27-28. But for 26-27, there are internal needs that are being addressed.
Thank you, Mary. I really appreciate that, and I know you put your limited budget dollars where you need it, and so thank you for that.
Questions, comments? Okay, Mr. Corey.
Thank you, Chair Leary. Without getting into line-by-line detail, how would you rate the changes year over year, the deficit changes? Would you say that they're significant, moderate, the same? How would you just capsulize that?
Chair Lori, Vice Chair Cooley, members of the commission, I would rate them somewhere between moderate and significant. I think the bonus 5 points is going to make a big difference. I think some of the new tools that we added should help you, commission, better evaluate the needs of human services. And then in terms of the application, some of the reorder, it could be helpful when reading to kind of understand the program before you're looking at a budget. So between significant and moderate.
I was thinking more toward the funding itself, I'm sorry.
The funding, the deficit,
Huge, gargantuan?
No, on par for the last decade that I've been here, yeah.
All right. Applications outline, slide 7, outline your agency's involvement in the Scottsdale community over the last year. I recall, I want to say, Neil and I were talking about it last year, like a new leaf in Mesa that, well, they aren't based in Scottsdale, but they do serve members that may no longer be in Scottsdale, but maybe were and are now referred to them for help. Is that still broad in its scope as far as being able to get grant funding? Is that too big of a question? I apologize if it is.
Chair Lurie, Vice Chair Cooley, members of the commission. So a part of the staff's priority scoring is they do receive points for being in Scottsdale. Also, agencies that may not be stationed in Scottsdale but do their work inside of Scottsdale would receive those type of points. Agencies that are outside of Scottsdale and don't do any work in Scottsdale wouldn't receive those priority points.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I think so. Yeah, we had, I think, discussed maybe if you're doing work adjacent to Scottsdale and it still benefits the homeless in general, let's say, that it would still be a good thing, but I understand where you're coming from. On to Neighborly, I got onto it with mobile, but not through desktop, so I'm working on that. It swore it was sending me an access code, but I never got it. I'll work on that. And I assume that not all of us are obviously as lucky as Roger to do only 28 out of 37 applications. I assume he's had to recuse himself because of involvement with other orgs and agencies.
And let me just clarify that because I represent a nonprofit that has applied for one of the funds.
I figured as much.
I had to recuse myself.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, Roger, do you have to recuse yourself from all of the scoring?
All of the scoring for general funds.
Nope.
So I still will score Scottsdale Cares, CDBG, SRP, MIC.
MOUSC.
Correct.
Thank you.
Chair Lurie, Vice Chair Cooley, members of the commission, one note, we did not receive any proposals for endowment this year. It was included in the NOFA, we didn't receive any.
So, Mr. Chair, on that point, I mean, I think we were talking about rolling those endowment funds over anyway to try to create a little bit larger budget for distribution. So that may work to our advantage next year when we look, and I see Mary shaking her head.
Chair Lurie, members of the commission, unfortunately, that is not how it works because the funds are invested through Arizona Community Foundation, and only a certain percentage are set aside for funding each year. And so just because we don't use it one year does not necessarily mean it rolls forward. It goes back into investments, and then the certain percentage of the total investment becomes available the following year.
So theoretically, because the market's done pretty well, there should be a higher number that comes back to us next year for distribution.
In theory.
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
Depending on the market.
I think that's what I was trying to say.
Well, Mary, if I add, what would be available had somebody applied?
Chair Lurie, members of the commission, we would have probably stated $8,600. The actual distribution, we aren't officially notified until March or April because they operate on a different calendar or a different cycle. Their year-end closing is March 30th.
Well, that's about what we had last year to work with, too, if I recall.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I look forward to a higher number next year, somehow. Thank you.
Commissioner Hill?
Okay, so I'm just starting to get a little overwhelmed and realizing what I got myself into. But I'm very excited about this. I do have a question, and maybe it's all detailed in there yet, and I have not gone in there yet to look at it all. But the organizations that did not use all their funding, if there are any, that did not use all their funding from last year, or that were given the money last year, do they need to explain why, and is that held against them? Is that held, I mean, should we be looking at that and giving them new funds for this year? How does that work?
Chair Lurie, Commissioner Hill, members of the commission, that is shown in the historical data. That I can't tell you how to look at things or score them, but it is up there for a reason to show past performance.
Are they required to use the money? I mean, all the money that's given to them, are they required within that year to use that money? Is that a stipulation, or?
Chair Lurie, members of the commission, it's like any other grant award. So it's in the best interest of organizations to expend the full dollar amount that they receive, no matter whether it's the city of Scottsdale applying for a grant or an organization applying to the city of Scottsdale for funding. It's always in the best interest to apply for the exact amount and to expend it down to the penny of the funds. When you leave funds on the table, in a general statement, I will tell you organizations, after having served on other review panels outside of the city of Scottsdale, I do have experience with regards to that, and they do look at that like, well, they don't need additional funds. So you could make your own deductions regarding that information. But again, like Chad stated, we're not able to give directions, but it is something that potentially that someone could use as a consideration point.
Is that a question on the application that they can explain why they didn't use it, or?
Chair Lurie, members of the commission, that is not currently on the application.
Okay.
But it could be a question that you might want to pose to us to ask after you look through all of the historical data and make a determination. That is an important question for you to know the answer to.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And just a quick follow-up just to clarify, they don't receive the funds up front, so they only receive on a reimbursement basis. So they're not holding any of our dollars while they wait to provide services. So that's another little gatekeeper scenario that staff has implemented, which I appreciate.
Chair Lurie, members of the commission, also to note, to look at the expenditures and if they exhausted them or not compared to number of served. There's a lot of agencies that expend all their money and exceed the proposed served compared to other agencies that do not. So that's kind of why we put the expenditures on that historical data this year, to kind of give you a better picture of what we see.
Okay, looking around, I don't see any further questions or comments. One thing I wanted to add is I'm really pleased to see on CDBG that you have some partnering agencies. And I really welcome that and look forward to reading those proposals. For the team, I just want to reinforce some of these dates. So questions back to Chad and Melissa, if you have any questions on the proposals, by January 30th. That's, what, about 3 weeks off. Scoring in Neighborly on February 19th. It's another 3 weeks beyond that. And then the work study session on February 26th, which is a regular commission meeting, I believe. But during that work study, and for Commissioner Hill and Commissioner Rowe, I was really curious the first year that I did this, how that would work. But Chad will present really rank-ordered proposals, showing us based on our aggregate scores and the staff scores where each agency fell. And that will enable us to collectively work through that. I guess it'll be a little different this year in the sense that we're doing all or nothing funding. So we won't be taking a proposal that, for example, was $20,000 and saying, well, we're going to give this agency half of that to fit into our available funds. And again, I'm so grateful that we've got the youth advisory group here. Erica and Eric, really look forward to your feedback and your participation in this process. Yes.
Okay, I do have one more question. So you have a list of priorities that we're supposed to follow when we're assigning these. Do we need to exhaust them in any particular order, or those the 4 or 5 that we can choose between?
Chair Lurie, Commissioner Hill, members of the commission. So each funding category has, some have, CDBG has 1, Scottsdale Cares and general funds have 3, and then Scottsdale Cares also has youth and development. So there is a section in the application where the agencies actually check which priorities they feel they met, and then it would be up to your judgment to determine if they are actually meeting those. And there's a section of scoring 1 through 10 just for priority, like did they meet a priority? Or did they meet 2 or 3 of the priorities that are listed in that funding source? So that, yeah. And then one more clarification for the group for the questions that are due on the 30th. If you could just please keep those questions directed towards the agencies only, because it does take a while to process them and get them back. If you have individual questions for staff, you could just email Melissa and I on the side or anything like that. But with the submittals for the January 30th, if you could just keep those directed towards the agencies only, that would be appreciated.
And in conclusion, happy reading. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Melissa. Really, this process has evolved so significantly in the 5 years I've been part of it. And thank you for your work on that. Mary, I think you're up on the Human Services Advisory Annual Report.
Chair Lurie, members of the commission, the annual report has been provided to you in your information packets and in advance. Please note we held 18 meetings of the Human Services Commission in calendar year 2025. We had no public comments. Several different actions were taken as it related to the Human Services Advisory Commission annual reports and the application fundings. Those are the actions in which the commission can proceed. And then also we had our election of officers and some additional items that were updates regarding human services. Over the course of the next year, some anticipated key issues that you should expect are Scottsdale Cares. We have that going to council on next Tuesday, January 13th, to increase the voluntary donation, volunteer opportunities, strengthening our volunteer engagement, focusing on senior services and prioritizing the expansion of senior services in Scottsdale by advancing our partnership with Honor Health, continuing to work on our feasibility study for the Adult Daycare Health Center, and commencing construction on a capital project to expand the Via Linda Senior Center. Our data collection, enhancing data collection in key areas such as the food bank and senior services to demonstrate meaningful community impact through transparent shared information. Our vulnerable populations, we will support housing stability and prevent homelessness among vulnerable populations through rent and utility assistance, while strengthening community partnerships to deliver coordinated long-term solutions. And then next week, you'll hear a little bit about the update on the opioid strategic plan. As we go through our budgetary process, we will talk about what kinds of implementation there will be from that once it goes through the budgeting process. Some significant future work products, the implementation of the Human Services newsletter, which was consolidated and just had its first distribution this month. In fact, I believe it came out on Sunday. So if you need a link to sign up to receive that, please let me know, and we will send you the link so you can be on the subscription. You will see that coming every month now, where we're highlighting community partners, and hopefully in the near future we'll also be highlighting some key staff members that do a lot of the work behind the scenes. And we also will work on completing an annual report on the Human Services Strategic Plan, Year 1 accomplishments in the priority areas identified in our strategic plan. Some of our upcoming opportunities or challenges are developing a centralized platform of data and policies for informed decisions and consistent service delivery to our community. That will be an internal platform for human services staff, so that data will be available for anyone who needs it. Should we apply for additional funding sources, have to provide answers to our community residents, our constituents, and also to be able to provide strong information. And we'll strategically use that data to demonstrate how human services leverages funding and partnerships to meet our complex needs. That's kind of the purpose of consolidating all that information. With that, that concludes, and then you also note the comments that came in from Chair Lurie. And if there's any additional comments or edits that you guys would like, please let me know at this time, or if you have any questions.
Questions, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good report, Mary. Thank you. We did a lot, and I think you captured just about everything that needed to be said, except I will make one comment that I feel like we've understated, or maybe not stated it at all, other than I will say the chairman's narrative at the end is well-written and does touch on it a little bit, but I feel like it should be under upcoming opportunities, challenges, and outcomes, because I think it is a challenge that the changes in federal funding policies and potential reductions in social services and safety net type programs like SNAP and LIHEAP, and potential reductions in CDBG allocations. I mean, it's a whole basket of programs that have the potential to hinder staff's capacity to serve our constituents. And I would also say that has an impact to our nonprofit community that we rely on so heavily to provide direct services to our residents. And so I don't know how to say that in a more condensed version, but I feel like it needs to be highlighted a little bit more dramatically than it is. Just my comment. Thank you.
Do you feel that the additional comments reflects that at all? Or
I think you touch on it, but it's soft. I think it's soft, and I think I don't think we should try to minimize the significant changes that are going to impact our ability to provide services, both at the city level and our nonprofit level. I mean, it's coming. It's coming. We've only got a taste of it now, but I think we should wave that flag as bright as we can.
Mary, I could work on adding something, an addendum to this, if that's permissible.
If I'm a minority commenter, I will
No, I think
cede to the.
I think it's a valid point.
The commission. Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mary?
I think we can phrase something in a way that acknowledges in all of the work that Human Services does is subject to federal guidelines in some way. And so I think there's a way that we can acknowledge that evolving landscape without, while remaining respectful of the need to comply.
Yeah, Mr. Chloe.
Thank you, Chair Larry. Mary, also, I forget when I read the notice about Kira and Judy being deputized. Was that this year or last year, into last year? And if so, my only question relative to that is, does it change your title at all? Can we strike interim at this point and move on?
Chair Lurie, members of the commission, their roles as deputy city managers became effective December 29th. As to the other information, I do not have any updates at this point.
Very good, thank you.
Could I propose that we get a motion to approve this with an addendum to strengthen the language about federal funding?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, a roll call?
Chair Lurie?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley?
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Shear?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Jung?
Yes.
Right, we're at the point to potentially identify future agenda items. I think we're going to be plenty busy for the next 6 weeks, but happy to entertain additional agenda items. And if not, a motion to adjourn.
So
I
moved.
move to adjourn, and/or second.
No, you move, I'll second.
I move to adjourn this evening's meeting.
And I will second that, thank you.
And a roll call.
Chair Lurie?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley?
Yes.
Commissioner Jung?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Shear?
Yes.
Commissioner Rowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson?
Yes.
We are adjourned.